This is the one truly you've all been waiting for. How much of your tax bill is going toward political pet projects, DEI experiments, or controversial programs for undocumented residents? In this episode, the final episode, part 5 of the budget breakdown, we take a hard look at the ideologically driven spending baked into Washington's 2025-2027 budget and how it may affect you, your family, and your bottom line. And we live in Washington. We live on the left coast. Let's just be real about it. We know where we live. We know where we're at. We know that our state is more Republican than ever, yet somehow Governor Ferguson still won. We know that most of the nation is more red than ever. However, we're controlled by 4 counties here in Washington state that dominate politics, that dominate everything that happens for everyone else, unfortunately, which is why it's so important to be an active member of your community, an active member in local elections, in state elections, in Senate elections, Congress, all the things. It's so important to be active in all those things year after year, which is why we have budgets that look like this with hundreds of thousands and honestly millions of dollars that are being wasted on things that just don't make sense. Don't make sense. So the first couple things I want to report on here in the equity, DEI, and identity-based spending, the major allocations, $2.5 million for diaper bank, prioritized for providers that help support racial equity. What is a diaper bank? You're probably asking. I'm assuming it's a bank that gives diapers to people that need diapers, essentially. They'll be placed in underprivileged areas. They'll be they'll be allocated for diapers for equity and DEI and identity based areas specifically. If I had to guess what a diaper bank is and why it specifically provides that help support racial equity, $1 million for maritime workforce development, directed towards a nonprofit, so an NGO in Seattle, creating equitable workforce systems to address structural racism in maritime workforce development. Why the maritime workforce development needs $1 million for that? I don't know. Why this NGO needs it? I don't know. So back to the diaper banks. Total of $5 million over 2 years. This is from 2024 to 2025. Used to purchase diapers, wipes, and baby essentials. Priority given to providers in marginalized, low-income, and communities of color, and those that help support racial equity. Implication: public funding prioritized not solely by need, but by demographic or ideological considerations. $1 million maritime workforce development program. Total $200,000 in general funds, but often referred to as part of a broader $1 million initiative. Use assists low-income individuals, particularly BIPOC, enter maritime careers, training, credentials, wraparound services. Who Gets It? A Seattle-based nonprofit that builds equitable workforce systems to address structural racism. Targeted language suggests ideological basis over general access. But wait, there's so much more. There's so much more. I am so excited that we finally got to get to this episode. I wanted to make sure I had all the things ready just to keep rocking and rolling here. So $494,000 annually for OSPI office, equity and civil rights. Total almost $1 million for 2024-2025. Fund the OSPI Office of Equity and Civil Rights, rooted in Chapter 240 laws of 2010. Responsibilities: oversee civil rights compliance and education, address disparities. Ongoing costs: this is a permanent office with reoccurring costs each biennium. Almost $1 million each biennium for the Office of Equity and Civil Rights, for the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Wow. Seems kind of ridiculous, because how does this help students? Please tell me, how does this office help students? What impact does it have on education? We need to be asking those questions. Just like this maritime group, what impact does this have on these maritime careers? This one organization that builds this, how is that actually helping the workforce, the maritime workforce? Same for this diaper bank. Who is it actually helping? It's only helping these specific demographics with these ideological considerations. But what about every other person that may be low income? Maybe that isn't a person of color that also needs the same assistance as well. The single mothers that are white that also needs assistance. Are they getting help? Are they? Probably not. They don't check enough boxes. $170,000 a year for emerging leaders, equity in the outdoors. I think we just covered this on the last episode, but around $340,000 over 2 years. Outdoor skills training and leadership development for underrepresented minorities. who it serves focus on BIPOC and Indigenous youth underrepresented in outdoor natural resource sectors. DEI specific training embedded in recreational programs. So we're using the outdoors and equity here to, put these youth in this development here or whatever purpose it serves. I'm not sure how this helps our outdoor and our natural resource sectors by bringing in these youth, but maybe it helps emerging leaders. Equity in the outdoors help them find a better career path and get training, things like that. Hopefully, it helps. $100,000 for a DEI subgroup in advanced manufacturing. The Washington Manufacturing Council must convene a subgroup of DEI experts to improve BIPOC and women representation and ownership in manufacturing jobs. $100,000 just to make recommendations to this group of quote unquote experts. So it'll probably be 2-3 people. They'll each make about 30 grand, 25, 30 grand, and make some recommendations and call it a day. Great use of our taxpayer money. Just bravo. There's more. There is more. BIPOC focused arts incubator, Tacoma, $250,000. Businesses training for BIPOC and women creatives. Concert and festival workforce training, Seattle. Each underserved youth concert events promotion skills. Latinx immigrants business development, South King County, $200,000 train Latinx immigrants in business education and community organizing. Offshore wind equity opportunity convenings, $375,000. Workshops on jobs equity related to offshore wind development. So over $2.4 million have been identified here in general fund dollars, and more in CCA funds go to projects where funding is conditioned or prioritized based on race, gender, or equity ideology. These items span multiple sectors: manufacturing, outdoors, diapers, maritime, and art. The controversy lies not in the value of the service, but in who qualifies and how the taxpayer funds are distributed, whether by need or ideological identity markers. And I'm telling you, it's the latter. It's not the first one. It's not by need, by the identity markers and the ideological identity markers. That's what it really is, truly is. Okay, some of this direct impact here. We're still in segment 1. That was it. That was just the equity, DI, and identity-based spending. We haven't even gotten into anything else yet. These programs narrowly focus on race or identity and prioritize outcomes based on group membership rather than need. And their conservative critics argue that it creates division and funnels taxpayer dollars into unmeasurable social engineering, which it does. And this is coming from a biracial male. Obviously, I'm white, but I'm biracial. My heritage, and I conservative. Couldn't tell. That's what it funnels into. So what do all these things help? How do they benefit the groups and the things that they're supposed to be benefiting? What's the impact? What's the result? Do we ever get to see the results? Probably not. Spending on undocumented residents and immigrant services. So that's our second part here. 25.25 million over 2 years for expanded services for newly arriving immigrants who do not qualify for federal refugee support, including housing, food, transportation, early childhood, K-12 education support, legal connections, job help, social service navigation. How about all the other Washingtonians that need those same things that you're not helping at all? What about the veterans that also need housing, food, transportation, early childhood, K-12 education support, possibly legal connections, job help, social service navigation? What about all those people? They're just going to get skipped over. The people who served our country are getting skipped over here. Actually, we'll go back here. We'll go at the very end of this episode and we'll see if there's anything in the budget for veterans and what is in the budget for veterans, and we'll see how much they're getting compared to everybody else. Probably not nearly as much. 3.5 million a year, so total 7 million for naturalization services to help eligible individuals become U.S. citizens. $4.73 million over 2 years for employment services, including 3.5 million passed through to nonprofits focused on limited English proficiency training. $100,000 to study the feasibility of wage replacement, unemployment-like program for undocumented workers with future funding plans under review. So future funding plans to see if we can, essentially just replace the wages for these people to not have to work, but still get a wage in some way, shape, or form. They lack citizenship requirement, raising concerns about long-term taxpayer obligations. Like, we're locked into 25, 28, 20, 32, 33, 30, $34 million right here just for immigrant undocumented resident services. And yes, I'm a Christian. We're supposed to take in the refugees, the weary, the sick, the poor, the tired, the hungry, all these people, right? The immigrants. But at what cost? At what cost to our own people are we doing all these things? At what cost to the veterans? At what cost to education? At what cost to public safety? At what cost Are we doing all these things at what cost to us? Because they're taking all of our money and putting it into these programs while spending very little, not nearly enough on education programs. Uh, so that's just part of it. And then we talk about youth programs with ideological or DEI focus. $250,000 for diaper banks, which we talked about. $1 million for maritime workforce programs. $494,000 a year to fund the Office of Equity and Civil Rights, the emerging leaders in the outdoors, the DEI subgroup in the manufacturing. Like there's so much. There's $120,000 a year for a multi-grade sexual violence prevention curriculum in Renton schools. That's great. We love that. $200,000 a year for a Latino gang violence prevention program with parent coaching, SEL, and wraparound services. This is really good. Another really good idea here. This one's actually good. $1.5 million for ninth grade success initiatives, including annual evaluations, because we see that that's just going down, down, down. $500,000 for Holocaust genocide curriculum development led by nonprofits with ideological learning. So, of course, those are going to be obviously biased and whatnot, but it's still good for our kids to learn those things. But it's led by nonprofit, so it isn't truly being funded. Critics say some of these programs have more to do with social messaging than core education. Political bias concerns arise when outside nonprofits shape school programming with taxpayer money. Talk about that. Justice system, jails, incarceration, progressive justice. There's so much here. $2.8 million for body scanners at prisons, $5 million to reopen the women's correctional units, even as inmates' numbers fall. So we're going to spend money to reopen this correctional unit, even as inmate numbers fall. So does that mean that they're going to go even harder trying to fill those since they opened it? 1.84 million per inmate variable cost. And of course, if you're going to reopen the correctional units, you got to also staff it. You got to also fund it. So that's going to cost more taxpayer money as well. And then, but you already don't have enough police as well. You don't have enough correction facilities. And don't even get me started on the whole Richland to Franklin County, what happened there. We'll cover that on a later episode. Not today. $170,000 to implement Senate House Bill 2099, which ensures state ID cards for those released from custody. Mixed signals, obviously. So these, of course, they increase spending on incarceration programs while simultaneously promoting progressive decarceration policies, like I just mentioned. They funds to identify non-citizen health service use to notify the Attorney General are seen as both watchdog efforts and chilling enforcement. So how is this all being funded? Oh no, before I got here, I wanted to check what is in the budget to help veterans or the average Washington resident and to help lower the cost of living. So 3 questions there. What's in the budget to help veterans or the average Washington resident and to help lower the cost of living? So let's see what this analyzes and spits out for us. There's probably very little that's going to pop out here. But I think it's good to compare, right? Because this is all the DEI, the woke, if you will, the woke line items that are on the budget that are less than important. They're to each their own, right? You can view this however you want to view it. Some people are going to think, oh, those things are amazing. We need those. Those are P1s. But, let's actually look at the veterans. Let's see. Okay. Washington allocated over $215 million to veteran services across several programs. Veteran homes, $34.5 million in state funds for 2026, 2027. 159.6 million federal funds, 21.8 million from private local funds. Total of 215 million for operation of state-run veteran homes. That's great. The VSOs, 165 million across Island, Walla Walla, Callum, Stevens, Estonian, Scammon counties to staff VSOs, helping vets access benefits. Unique therapy for veterans. Equine. $100,000 for no-cause equine therapy through a Thurston County nonprofit. Veteran service expansion, $566,000 for implementing a broader definition of veteran via House Bill 2014, expanding eligibility for services. So it looks like there's actually some money allocated for veteran services. Most of it is federal funds, $34 million in state funds across 2 years, $21.8 million from private and local funds. So quite a bit here, but still, VSOs for the veteran service officers, $1.65 million, $100,000 for horse therapy, $566,000 for a broader definition of veteran. I mean, it doesn't feel like a lot compared to what the immigrant and undocumented are getting. I mean, their numbers are veterans are getting $100,000 for horse therapy, while at only $1.65 million for their services. So let's compare this real quick. $1.65 million to helping vets access benefits across Island, Walla Walla, Callum, Stevens, Estonian, and Stamina counties to staff the VSOs that are helping vets access these benefits. Yet the immigrants get 4.73 million. That doesn't seem really even, if you ask me. 4.73 divided by 1.65. That's 2.87 times more that they're getting there. 3.7 million for naturalization services, 25.25 million for expanded services for housing, food, transportation. I don't see any of that included in the veterans budget. I just see there's for housing, which is state-run veteran homes. I would assume some of these are just the bases, I think. So the veterans are getting very little compared. If you compare it straight across, it doesn't really seem like a lot that they're getting here compared to those who are here illegally versus those who fought for our country to protect our freedoms. I don't know. It's just something that doesn't sit right with me there. Shouldn't sit right with you either. Housing and rent assistance, homelessness services, $111 million over 2 years to continue grants for emergency housing and shelter, including motel vouchers, rental assistance, street outreach, housing search and placement, stabilizing rent and provider workforce, rental assistance for DV survivors, $100,000 prioritized for those fleeing abuse, which 80% going directly to rent payment. That'll go really quickly. Utility and energy cost relief. So now we're into kind of what's helping the average person. A low-income utility bill help, $35 million to assist families below 80% AMI with utility bills. Each household offered an energy audit and potential upgrades like heat pumps. Tenants protected from eviction or rent hikes due to these improvements. $200 utility bill credit. So that's from the 146.7 million fund, which we covered, I think, on episode 3 for Clean Energy for Washington Families Grant. Home ownership help. So that's a little bit more we're talking about here. A starter home support, $1.5 million to nonprofits providing counseling and technical assistance to first-time home buyers. $500,000 to draft a plan to reduce costs of starter homes and expand access. So let's compare the two. Who's getting more in services and support? Veterans, immigrants. So of course, a lot of this stuff for the veterans comes from the federal. 59.2 million is still coming from the state, but some third of that, 50 million, let's say, is coming from within the state. The rest is coming from federal funds and private and local funds. $34.5 million coming from the state, right, for veterans. That's where we're coming from, for state veteran homes. And what services and things are provided at state veteran home? Their long-term care services to honorably discharge veterans, their spouses, and Gold Star parents, funded in part by state and largely by federal veteran affairs, the VA programs. These facilities offers both medical care and quality of life services. So they provide skilled nursing care, 24/7 nursing for chronic illnesses, disability recovery, medication administration, medical monitoring, coordination with VA and hospitals, physicians, physical therapy, OT, speech therapy, post-hospital recovery care, memory care, specialized care units for veterans with Alzheimer's, dementias, or cognitive impairment, secured environments with trained staff, mental health and behavioral support, on-site or referred mental health care, social work services, grief, trauma, and PTSD informed counseling, end-of-life care, comfort care, spiritual services, family support through hospice partnership, residential and daily amenities, private or semi-private rooms, meals, snacks, and specialized nutrition services, laundry, housekeeping, and linen services, recreational programs including arts and crafts, group outings, music therapy, religious services, veteran-centered services, assistance with VA benefits, medical claims, commemorative ceremonies, flag events, veteran holidays, coordination with veteran services organizations, peer companionship in a veteran-only environment. Locations in Washington looks like there's 4. Washington Soldiers Home in Ording, Washington Veterans Home in Port Orchard, Spokane, and Walla Walla Veterans Home. So looks like this is what's being funded, but $34.5 million in addition to the 1.65. So we're looking at $36.81 million coming from the state alone for veterans. And then immigrants and undocumented residents, total identified supports is about $47.98 million. So the wage replacement program study for undocumented, $100,000. Employment services for immigrants, $4.73 million. Naturalization services, $7 million. Refugee stabilization grants, Afghan, Ukrainian, $9 million. Aid for new immigrants not eligible for refugee help, $25.25 million. And I don't think that also probably doesn't include the health benefits and all those other things as well. So $46.8 million. $46.8 million. The veterans have 4 programs, immigrants have 5. Federal cost share mostly comes from the federal level for the veterans. Only 36.81. So $10 million more for immigrants. So this is just, I don't know, something about it just, it doesn't sit right with me. It does not sit right with me. It doesn't make sense that we're taking care of the immigrants before we're taking care of our veterans, and veterans are literally the reasons that the immigrant comes. So we should take care of them first. We should do everything for our veterans. I believe that our veterans should be well taken care of. They fought, they served, they have these long-term, life-changing mental health conditions that could impact them for life. But yet we're doing absolutely the bare minimum. A lot of this, 21.8 million from private and local funds, while the state provides $34.5 million. Imagine without that private and local, what those services would look like for our veterans. But then think about what it looks like for you at the same time. The programs that I've mentioned, all these DEI programs, diaper banks, what else? Diaper banks and body scanners at prisons, and opening up a new women's correctional facility that's probably not going to be used very much. Maritime workforce programs, and much, much more that I mentioned. These are all funded by your sales tax, your gas tax, your property tax, the B&O tax, which businesses pass on to the consumers, with no new major income taxes added, and the cost is hidden in price hikes, fees, and squeeze from local budget. A conservative estimate is that the identity-driven and ideological programs now account for $30 million in general fund appropriations, a growing slice of Washington's $71.7 billion operating budget that is expected to grow to $78 million here shortly if it's passed. King 5 in January 25, coverage of the rent and sexual violence prevention curriculum rollout sparked debate among parents about age appropriateness. Salem Times editorial February 2025 criticized wage replacement proposals for undocumented workers as unfair to legal residents struggling without aid. Yeah, I mean, thank you, Seattle Times. The Seattle Times is getting more and more credit from me when I read things like this, that they're covering things like this, right? Our legal residents are struggling without aid, while we're giving everything to undocumented, to those who are here illegally. It's just, we give everything to them, but we don't take care of our own. Our own residents are struggling. They need help and support too, but they're being ignored. The Tri-City Herald in March 2025 highlighted DEI challenges in local manufacturing and skepticism over $100,000 in new equity planning funds. I hope that you've gotten an idea. Of course, we didn't go line by line through everything. Maybe I'll do one more episode here after the week, maybe just to kind of wrap it all up. My favorite things from the budget, what's there. But I mean, again, this is all the things I wanted to review. There's so much waste. There's so much unnecessary spending. There's so much that we're being taxed for and told to pay for. That's only going to help a very niche group of people, or people who shouldn't be here at all, while our own legal residents are struggling, while our veterans get very little and have to rely on the federal and the private to help take care of them. Like we don't do enough for our people here in our state. But let's get all these people to the front of the line. Let's give all these other people who aren't supposed to be here health care with those who really need it the most. The kids who are legal Americans that have these behavior issues, we're going to make their access to care harder while giving the illegal residents the front of the line, the fast pass, right? Essentially. And so I want everyone to think about this as we went through the budget here this week. There's a lot in the budget. It's 1,300 pages. I couldn't cover it all. Heck, I was gonna start with 2 episodes, and I realized I needed 3, and then I realized I needed 4, and I'm like, 5 will do it. We'll do 5 Monday through Friday. We'll hit a lot of the budget, and even then, I don't think I did it justice at this point. I don't know if we'll have an answer by the time this episode comes out. And overall, $9.5 billion in new taxes for you and me shouldn't sit right with you. They just passed it through and went home. Democrats did. They said, here's this budget. It's a privilege to pay taxes. You should be lucky. Paying taxes, having low taxes, only benefits the ultra rich. It doesn't help the average person. What they said. They just went home. They passed it, went home, didn't give 2 single shits about you, about me, about our banks, about our day to day. They just went home, passed it, and said, yep, hit the bill, Washington. We did our part. We waited till the last minute. Three things. We waited till the last minute. Got it through. We didn't even listen to the Republican budget, which included no new taxes. Biggest thing there. It was balanced. No new spending, cut spending. It was a much better bill, much better tax package, much better budget. Overall, it didn't have to be this way, but because of voting blue, no matter who, continuously, time and time again, we get here time and time again. We get to the same spot of needing the same conversation over and over and over again. We don't have a spending problem here in Washington State. We have a revenue problem. We have an issue of the average person not being informed to the level that they can make decisions like this, that they can say, hey, slow down with all that spending. Say something. They don't know enough to be able to call their legislature and ask if they supported these identity-based earmarks. If they know where the sales and property taxes are even going. Heck, the average person doesn't know where the sales and property taxes are even going. I just reviewed, 3 hours on the budget with you guys this week. I still don't even know where half this money goes. It goes to the general fund. What even is the general fund? I don't know. I invite you guys to attend your local budget meetings, attend local town halls, reach out to your representatives, talk, have the conversation, get to know people, have this conversation with your coworkers. Hey, I listened to the Evergreen report. They were talking about the budget. Did you know, yada, 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 yada. Did you know that $3 million is for social media campaigns for climate control? Make the transition. Did you know that our tax dollars go to diaper banks, body scanners, success initiatives? Who knows what success initiatives are? Did you know that illegal immigrants get more than veterans? Did you know all these things about the budget? I guarantee you didn't. You're more educated now. You're probably more educated than 80% of Washington on the budget because of being here. Share that information. Don't keep it for yourself. Share it. Why would you keep it for yourself? Share it. Don't gatekeep it. The more that know, the better. I'm not concerned about views. I'm not concerned about any of that. I'm concerned about sharing the information with Washington, being a change agent, because there's probably nothing we can do about this budget now. Everyone can go and blow up Governor Ferguson and say, veto the budget, send it back, call them all back for a special session, do what you got to do. Make them work together. Make the Republicans and Democrats, for the first time in forever, work together on a budget that satisfies both sides, that's good for Washington, not just good for Democrats. Make a budget that gets rid of all these woke ideological line items. Get rid of the excessive spending on things that we don't need. Reallocate the money to actually have better public safety, to hire the cops, to hire the law enforcement, to make our waterways safer, to make our streets safer, to make our parks beautiful again, to make public education great and a leader. We spend so much, we should be leading the nation in every category. But our students shouldn't be failing across the board in math, reading, science, everything. Right? When they get to 8th grade, they shouldn't be multiple grade levels behind. Not 1, but 2, not 3, not 4. They should be ahead. If we're spending all this money, we're a leader in that category. If we're spending all this money on gas and, transportation taxes and tolls and things like that, we should have the best roads and the best infrastructure in the nation, but we don't. We spend all this money going toward public safety, homelessness, the drugs, things like that. We should have 0 homeless people. We should have 0 needle exchanges going on. We should have treatment centers. We should be booming, absolutely booming with all these things. We should be a leader in all these categories, spending this much money. We should be the leader, but we're not. Why are we not the leader in all these things? Think about that. Please, I'm literally begging you, think about that. Spending all this money, why aren't we leading? If we're spending all this money, why aren't we leading? If we're doing all these things, why aren't we leading? Where's the money gone? Where's the money gone? Who knows where it went under Jey Inslee? The governors before him. Who knows where it's gone? Well, we know now, and we can speak starting now. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best time to start is today. Start today. Be an agent for change locally. Stop worrying about everything going on at the federal level. Very little affects you. Start worrying about what's going on right here. This budget, this last 5 days of episodes I broke down for you, last 3 hours-ish of content, maybe less. What has it done? Hopefully it's helped you realize some changes that need to be made in our state. Help you realize, oh my God, it's out of control. I need to say something. I need to speak up. And we should be asking why. Why are we not the leader in all these things? We're spending this much money on them. We should be number 1 across the board in education, in public safety, and homelessness, and all these things. We're not. We're so low. Our scores are bottom of the nation. We spend more money than so many other states combined. So just remember that. Just go through and go into your weekend. Think about those things. Consider them. Actually think about them. Give some thought. A couple seconds. Maybe a little bit more. This has been the Evergreen Report. This has been our special series of the budget breakdown. for the 2025-2027 biennium. And I hope by the time this episode comes out, I hope and pray that Governor Ferguson has vetoed the budget. I do. I really do. I really do. I really do. But we'll see. If not, then we'll go on to next week and we'll continue to have the same message. To the mothers, Mother's Day is this sad Sunday. To the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. Hope you have a beautiful time with your kids, with your families. Hope you guys all do well. Give mom something nice this Mother's Day. She deserves it. It's crazy out there. Hopefully you can afford it. It's getting a little expensive here in Washington to afford these things, so do what you can. A ball on the budget this Mother's Day, guys. But until next time, right here on the Evergreen Report, I'm your host, Jay. Can't wait to see you next week.